Please welcome Mr. Nasir Khan Yahya.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Hasnan. Thank you, IKM, for giving me the opportunity to share my experience and knowledge regarding cooperative movement and to a certain extent SDG. But before I proceed, I shall declare I'm not an expert in these two matters. I'm merely a practitioner, having been in the movement for almost 37 years. In 2021, inshallah, by August, I'll reach my retirement age and hopefully can still continue to be part of the wonderful movement. I'm sure most of us have heard or learned a lot about SDGs. As far as cooperative is concerned, the deliberation on how co-op can contribute to this social and economic well-being of people in the planet has been going on for a very, very long time. And if you can still remember, in 2012, ILO and International Cooperative Alliance declared and announced the blueprint for cooperative decade. Then they were talking about achieving the Millennium Goals, and now they are talking about achieving the 17 goals set to be achieved by 2030 regarding SDGs. In general, let me share my screen. Sorry.
Presentation.
Sorry. Oops. Okay, can you see my screen? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good.
We cannot see your screen, Tuan.
I'm sharing it with you now. You cannot see?
Yeah,
I can see
Yeah,
the
we can't see the screen.
Look at your presentation, Mr. Nasir.
Yes, I know. Can you see now?
No.
No.
Nope. Wow. Still cannot?
Not yet.
Not yet. Do I share this? Not yet. It works okay just now, but now it's not working. Secretariat, can you share on my behalf, please?
Okay. Wait.
Okay, while you are solving the issue, as you know, the triple bottom line that co-op is supposed to achieve actually related to three core area. One is the social well-being. To be exact, co-op is supposed to provide security and protection for their members. Another segment is the environmental issue. Co-op as environmental actor, they are supposed to encourage the use of sustainable and natural resources through partnership amongst co-op and with non-co-op also. And last but not least, co-op as economic actor, they are supposed to open up employment opportunities, livelihood, and economic involvement of the people. And to be more precise, roles of co-op can be divided as far as DG is concerned into a few areas, because you know there are 17 goals. So these goals can be grouped in certain area. I'm not going to touch on all the 17 goals, but I will focus on first on the livelihood. As you can see, as far as livelihood is concerned, co-op is supposed to try to achieve the no poverty objective, which is ending poverty in all its form everywhere. Then co-op is supposed to also reach a time where there will be zero hunger. I don't know whether that is possible or not, but that is one of the objectives, which is to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrient and promote sustainable agriculture. And that is SDG number 2, related to livelihood. And SDG number 10 is to reduce inequality within and among countries especially. And in this regard, actually co-op all over the world has been doing their part. And are we looking at this slide now, the Iligan City government?
Next slide.
Iligan City Government Employees Multipurpose Co-op, you can see that they have made a pledge that they commit to provide livelihood opportunity to 450 poor family by 2030. Very precise. And that is their pledge in achieving this goal related to livelihood. And you see another co-op in Italy, Copo Mondo. We engage and contribute to end poverty by offering training and technical assistance. And in Spain, Wazo Sociedad Cooperative, they said that they will commit to hire young people under the age of 24 as trainees, intern, apprentice, or employees by 2020. I'm sharing you this to show that co-op all over the world are actually doing their part and making pledges to achieve SDG 2030. In Malaysia, of course, we have some example. I'm not sharing it with you today because I don't have the exact info, but many co-op are actually also doing the same, except that they don't make pledge to ICA, because I picked this up from ICA website, the pledge made by co-op all over the world. Okay, that is one, livelihood. On the role of cooperative in terms of gender equality, that is SDG number 5. We are supposed to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And that is again embedded in the co-op principle and co-op practice. And in this regard, I will share also, again, I'm taking this from the flash on the ICA website. The cooperators in Canada, they said we commit to achieve 1/3 gender parity in board membership by 2020. And in Canada, One City, they commit to build a diverse workforce and leadership with equal pay for work of equal value and increasingly reflecting composition of communities in which we work. So again, these are pledges being made by co-op all over the world. So if we talk about how co-op can help achieve SDGs, now all SDGs actually can be achieved if people and government use co-op as the vehicle. So that is gender. As far as environment and climate is concerned, I'm picking up 2 SDGs here, 7 and 13. 7 is affordable and clean energy, which is to ensure access to affordable and reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. And SDG 13, climate change, we should take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact by controlling greenhouse gas emissions and encourage development for renewable energy. And again, to quote example for you, I'm picking up example from Japan, JCCU, Japanese Consumer Cooperative Union. They said that JCCU pledged to reduce total CO2 emission by 40% compared to level in 2030 to ensure through energy conservation measures and to tackle the development of renewable energy supply. So that is on environment. On decent work and economic growth, we can also see quite a number. I'm again picking up just 2 examples. Our colleague from Australia can confirm on this. CBH or cooperative handling in Australia, actually one of the largest agriculture co-op in Australia, established in 1933. 4,200 farmers as member, but their turnover is 4.19 billion US dollar in 2019. They are really contributing to decent work and economic growth. You can Google, you can see how these cooperatives are actually helping the farmers right from sowing the seed up to the food reach the table of the people. They are all along the supply chain. And another good example that I would like to share also is the AMUL, Gujarat Cooperative Marketing Federation India. They have 1,000 staff, but members very many, 3.6 million people in Gujarat who are milk cows producers and farmers are actually members of this co-op. So there are quite a number of other examples that I can share, but again, what I'm trying to say here is co-op is actually having a very big impact in creating decent work and economic growth for the community. On responsible consumption and production, also I'm quoting here some example of how co-op are actually taking action in achieving this SDG. From Australia, we see there the Organic and Regenerative Investment Co-op through the promotion of conservation agriculture to project. They commit to increase food security and farmers' income through the adoption of climate-smart agriculture practices, greater functional literacy, and increased market. And in USA, National Cooperative Business Association of USA, they said we pledge to increase the amount of land farmed organically and regeneratively while increasing amount of carbon stored in soil on this land by 2020. And in Netherlands, you see another co-op, Rabobank, which is also a global leader in food and agriculture financing and sustainable-oriented banking. So again, I'm showing you or sharing with you all that co-op is actually really contributing to the achievement of all the 17 goals set in SDGs. But still, there are challenges in achieving this goal as far as co-op is concerned. Mrs. Roslan said just now that, of course, in difficult time, problem become opportunities. Yes, we can't agree more with that. And that is why, as cooperators, as cooperative organizations all around the world, we must take this problem as opportunity and forge ahead as a group, because we know International Cooperative Alliance especially are really influencing the policymakers, people at the top, at the United Nations, and also leaders of countries to use co-op as the vehicle to help the world become a better living space. But to achieve that, we have to recognize that pseudo-cooperative is a world problem. I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but in my experience, people still don't really understand what co-op is all about. In the case of Malaysia, they think it is organization for small people only. Some people think it is an NGO, unprofitable, unprofessional, only for pensioners, those people after the age of 60, outdated in their management, in their thinking, weak without assistance. We form co-op, but people must help us, otherwise we cannot succeed. And some also think that co-op is formed for individual agenda. So this is the problem we are facing. And as I said, this is a world problem, because when I attended a program in Moscow in 2018, when we were about to enter the big hall, we were given one small piece of paper and they put that questionnaire. Please tick one box. Reason for you to join a co-op. Is it to fulfill common needs or business profit? So even these two very simple questions, but all over the world, the differentiation between co-op social enterprise, NGOs, companies. Actually, to us it's very clear, but for some people it's quite vague and the demarcation is not really very clear. So that is our first hurdle, that is to make sure that the true nature of co-op being understood by all the members especially and public at large. So my suggestion here, but I'm just emphasizing the obvious because it's been mentioned over and over again by leaders, by politicians, by academicians. Framing co-op growth via SDGs are actually related around the SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. Because if you achieve this, or if you can provide decent work and economic growth, then you will be able to, in a way, solve or improve the issue of no poverty, zero hunger, gender equality, affordable and clean energy, equalities, responsible consumption and production, and climate change. So all actually embedded or linked around the SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. And my suggestion here is, as I said, is just emphasizing the obvious. One is because of the problem of not many people really understand co-op, we should go back to basic. And New Zealand Plumbing World and Metric Co-op has, make a statement here. I read in their website. People are at the heart of co-op. The ethos is one of working together for common good, because they are created to meet. This is the more important, because they are created to meet the needs of the members first, rather than to maximize profit. They are well placed to weather economic storm. Not many people, sometimes leadership, can really understand this, because people can't understand how can you make business without having profit or making profit. But in co-op, if you are a true cooperator, you will know that maximization of profit is not the core aim of a co-op. It's just a vehicle. The social well-being of the members are actually our prime objective. So go back to basic, create and meet the need of the members first, rather than maximize profit. Second, which is, I don't know, maybe Mr. Rosal also from people from the college can agree with me that it's not being practiced at the moment. Using patronage or use of the co-op rather than capital invested or shares held as the mechanism for the distribution of financial return is the defining characteristic of co-op model. Meaning that you are being encouraged to participate in co-op activity, and you are being appreciated when you have more participation, not because you have more shares in the co-op. So that is also the defining element between co-op and non-co-op. And I think we should go to basic and really think about this again. I mean, appreciating those who participate rather than investing in the co-op. The next point about back to basic. Do I still have time? Hello? Wawi?
Yeah, you still have time.
Oh, okay. I thought I'm talking alone.
Everybody is on silent mode actually.
Okay. Because I'm just looking at my slide. Okay. Back to basic number 3. Co-op actually are independent of government and should not be confused with charitable or non-profit businesses. So again, as my earlier point, we should really understand what independent from the government is all about, and what are actually our differences. What is the difference between us, the NGO, and also the social enterprise? And this is not mentioned by me. This is Tim Mazarol and Elena Limnois from the cooperative enterprise. Okay, and another point, which is also important to me, there is no point using the co-op model as a differentiator if your product and services are not as good as those offered by competitors. Because sometimes we have the thinking that, okay, I'm a co-op, we are co-op, so our members will definitely support us, buy product from us. This is not necessarily true. Loyalty will come with the right products, the right price at the right time, not because you are named cooperative. So that is one point of going back to basic that I think we should look into. And last but not least, about going back to basic is the duty of entrepreneur is to take care of the society in which they operate, and entrepreneur means cooperative, and we should be thinking in we should be thinking of shifting our values from shareholder to stakeholder, because shareholder merely look after profit on investment, whereas stakeholder, you take responsibility of the running of the co-op, what you are doing with your business, etc. So that is my advice on how do we move forward beyond the pandemic, beyond this crisis. Go back to basic, look at what we are doing at the moment, whether we are really a co-op or we are pseudo-cooperative. Of course, again, emphasizing the obvious, embrace technology. This has been mentioned by many people almost every day, every minute. And our minister also has mentioned this. Post-MCO, small businesses should adopt technology-based business model, he said. And small businesses include co-op. Digital banking is changing Malaysia financial landscape. And in this regard, I would like to share that Angkasa is actually applying to the Central Bank of Malaysia, along many other organizations, being bank or non-bank, to be given the license to operate digital bank. And our core objective here to serve the unserved and the unserved and the underserved segment. And by having this license to operate as a digital bank, we pledge to have a business or a service and product that is affordable, accessible, agile, all around and astute. So that is one thing we are doing at the moment as far as Angkasa and Malaysia is concerned. The way forward for us is we cannot avoid embracing technology, and in financing sector, we need to have the digital banking for co-op. Otherwise, 600 credit co-op may have to cease their operation once the 5 digital license banking is approved by the Central Bank of Malaysia. And in technology, again, our initiative, we are now trying to link the producer and the customer into one system. We have the consumer outlet and the essential supplies provider in one system, Jimat Shop, Jimat Biz, and Jimat Hub. This is already in operation for almost a year. We are providing food, pharmaceutical product, and in the near future will be the DIY product, all under one system using technology, online business. And cattle husbandry and harvest park, also I'm just quoting example, local example, just now I share with you the international, but we are doing what we are doing in Malaysia here. We are trying to come up with a new breed of cattle that can produce more milk, because in the case of Malaysia, we are importing more than 90% of our milk from overseas. So once we have the new breed, then we can, in a way, reduce the reliance on importing those products. And we are doing this through cooperative in Malaysia that are now involved in husbandry, cattle husbandry and harvest park, with the cooperation from our international colleague National Agriculture Cooperative Federation of Korea, because they are providing the semen, the artificial insemination technology, sexing kits. They are all from Korea. Okay, that is the second advice. Embrace technology.